VLR.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz is a Republican and our guest tonight. Senator, good to see you. What's it like to be the most hated man in America?
Hi, you look beautiful.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the show. Congratulations. Holy moly. Number
so
170 countries. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, thank
You're
you
having
so
a good day today.
I am, besides the fact that I'm catching pneumonia in your studio right now.
It's very cold, but you have to wear clothes when you come on here. That's how you
I
make it warmer.
asked if I could bring a blanket, and they looked at me like I was crazy, but I was ready to sit there
Probably
and
get you a blanket
do the
and
interview.
cozy up.
Next, news, entertainment, etc. Tonight with Jonathan D. Sangster.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Next. Glad to have you with us tonight. Tonight we got Taylor's with us again.
Yes, when he's not having tech issues, like I learned something. I learned something, and this is very, very important. Because see, I use Firefox as my default browser. I'm a big fan.
I do too.
I'm a big fan of Firefox.
Yeah.
However, for whatever reason, I don't know why. For whatever reason, Flash occasionally, and it's just on one. It's just on a couple of websites. Nothing major. On a couple of websites, it likes to throw a fit and cause Flash to basically crash.
Which is lots of fun.
Yes.
Because nothing uses Flash.
And when that happens, is when it likes to throw the Spreaker control system just completely off. It just basically goes, no, we're not interested in you working. We're not interested in having this working. So it occasionally causes technical difficulties.
Yeah. Well, when I'm writing, I have Firefox, Chrome, and IE all running, and Firefox is maintained as my default because Chrome likes to randomly crash, and IE is slow as hell and crashes randomly. But yeah, I've noticed that with Flash sometimes it's just an issue with Firefox, but it still works more often for me than Chrome does, so...
Yeah, no, I love Firefox.
Yeah.
I love Firefox. It just happened to throw a fit. And it threw a fit at the wrong time.
There's a right time?
Yeah, when I'm not broadcasting.
Yeah.
So, anyway, now that that's over with and we're on the air, let me remind you that I only speak for myself. I don't speak for Jonathan. I don't speak for my coworkers. I don't speak for my bosses. I don't speak for my parents, my cat, my sisters, the company I work for who stays nameless. There's no one's business who I work for. Pint-Sized Pundit, Alan, Liz, unless she says so. I covered all the bases, right?
However, if you had a dog, you would speak for him.
No, I wouldn't.
So it's not just the cat rule.
Yeah, not just the cat rule. The dog rule, too. And I didn't realize that you have the Ooh Shiny Network.
Yes, yeah, on Facebook and Twitter for a while, a couple months now.
Okay, well, I only
It's
realized that when you retweeted.
oh yeah, it pretty much just shares big information about all of the actual parts of the network. So
Okay.
it's just kind of like the general feed, or the not general is not the word I want. Because it doesn't share everything; it just shares big things and among the network. So
It's the Ooh Shiny Network.
yes,
But with that being
Let's
said,
continue.
you do have a lot to talk about tonight, don't you?
yes, we do. Well, the big thing being Crimea voted to leave the Ukraine and join Russia today. With they're saying 95% of the votes cast were yes. However, turnout was only about 56%. Kind of says of what Crimeans, how split they are. A lot of them just didn't bother to go to vote because they're like the rest of the world going, it's fixed.
Well, the
And-
Tatars were skipping.
Yes, they boycotted. A lot of others just, weren't vocally boycotting, but just didn't go. Yeah, but they're very vocal on that. They're boycotting it because they don't want to be part of the new Soviet Union. And we did have sources in Ukraine tell to Radical.com that the pro-Russian militias were not just outside the polling stations, but were inside as well.
Wait. I'm sorry. Did you just say that you had sources tell TorahRadical.com?
Yes.
You have sources
Yes.
that aren't named Katrina Jurgensen?
Yes.
Wow. And they're not and they're not named Mary Chastain, right?
Nope.
Okay.
Nor that either. You just wanted to make sure we got their mentions out there, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Every week we mention those two. Katrina's joined us.
Yes.
Mary
Mary
doesn't
will at some
respond
point.
when I ask
She's
her if she
always up
wants
for
to.
it. She's always up for it.
But yeah, but they had
but-
so you had armed militias in in many of the polling stations. That's not, telling people how to vote. I've only got a machine gun over here. You can vote however you want, as long as I saw a comic today. I forget what it was by. I just saw it on Google real quick that it had the options for the vote. Yes, Crimea should join Russia. No, Crimea should not stay part of Ukraine. It was like that's pretty much how this vote was.
Heads I win, tails you lose.
Yes. And the US, EU, NATO, Australia. Again, Australia is very vocal on this whole issue. Have all said, no, the vote doesn't count. Obama stated that, supposedly in his phone call with Putin, that the US would never recognize this vote. Which, again, what good does that do while there's as many as 50,000 Russian troops in Crimea? And Ukraine is calling up the reserves that they have of 10,000 troops. But we did have yesterday, Russia acknowledged that it's their troops in Crimea. However, they say it's only a few thousand. That came after Russian forces, about 80 infantry backed by helicopters, gunships, and armored vehicles, seized the village of Striklov. They later backed off the village, but encamped around and inside the village's natural gas production area. Since then, Ukrainian troops have gone into the village and are entrenching the village. Basically, this is the new border, is through the middle of this village. But Russia is acknowledging that they are there now, which is a huge step forward, though tomorrow with Putin, and Putin hasn't admitted it, so he can still say no, they're not. I mean, he is, his word is what makes Russia move. But yeah, so the last couple of days you had protests in eastern Ukraine with violence and a couple deaths. Russia's trying to use that as reasoning to invade Ukraine in the name of defending ethnic Russians. But at this point, they haven't moved. They do have a couple thousand troops directly on the border, with about 200,000 more doing maneuvers a few hours away. But at this point, they haven't gone any further into Ukraine, other than this one group that went just north of Crimea and taking over natural gas production.
All right. So what can the U.S. do then?
Well, that's back to the there's that many Russian troops there. There's not much that can be done unless someone's willing to start World War III. Because at this point, unless we force military action, there's no way we're going to get 50,000 Russian troops, or the 20,000 Russia admits having there, out of Crimea without forcing them out.
Should
They're
they?
It's kind of, at this point, it's a definite no-win situation. I mean, we can't take it back without fighting for it, so it's a little late to do something about it. I mean,
I meant in the sense of, is this something that that they should be doing?
They being the U.S.?
Yeah.
It's a dangerous thing. It's the foreign entanglements, and not necessarily our fight, but at the same time, if we just keep letting Russia swallow countries, I mean, had Ukraine been part of NATO, A, Russia wouldn't have pushed as much, and B, we would have been forced to. However, if this had been like Poland, then as a part of NATO, we would have been, by the treaties we've signed, required to defend their territory with force. And Ukraine's actually done several things with NATO, and basically has been an unofficial member for the last couple of years.
Right.
So it was a really fine line there. Russia jumped on a chance to take an area, and it would have been huge had NATO this past week had Ukraine joined. That would have been a huge statement, but no one's willing to do anything militarily except Russia. Even Ukraine's very wary of it because they know they can't win a war against Russia. I mean, even if they knew they had the backing of the entire NATO ally system, Ukraine would be the casualty of any war, So it's morally, yes, probably to a degree. I mean, not morally, I should say, but there's a certain point where we have to go. If we're gonna say that a big country can't invade and conquer their neighboring countries by international law, what good is the international law if we don't back it up?
Well, I guess the question that could be raised is, are there economic ways to do this? Are there economic ways to figure out, okay,
Well, that's what we're threatening, sanctions. We've been threatening sanctions all week long, and slowly putting them into place against against certain Russian political figures. However, how effective is that, when Russia has enough resources to support itself? I mean, yeah, we can, even if we completely isolate them economically, there's very few countries that could survive that as well as Russia could. So, I mean, sanctions are not a very effective tool to use against a country that well stocked and with such high production. But,
sometimes it may be the only thing you can do.
Oh yes, not saying we shouldn't do it. I mean, it's something we need to at least do more than verbally say no, bad Russia. But unfortunately, I just wish it would be more effective in making them hesitant. They did have on Saturday tens of thousands of Russians protested in Moscow against their troops being in Crimea. It was the largest anti-government rally in over a year. So it showed even a lot of the Russians aren't happy about it.
Did you see this report from AFP, which said that state TV says Russia could turn U.S. into radioactive ash?
I heard something about that. I didn't see it, but I heard something about that. There was a threat that, yeah, it sounds like North Korea, except for they can back it up.
Let me read this to you, and I'm curious about what you think. A leading anchor on Russian state television on Sunday described Russia as the only country capable of turning the U.S. into radioactive ash in an incendiary comment at the height of tensions over the Crimea referendum. Russia is the only country in the world realistically capable of turning the U.S. into radioactive ash, anchor Dmitry Kiselyov said on his weekly news show on state-controlled Rossiya 1 television. Kiselyov made the comment to support his argument that the United States and President Barack Obama were living in fear of Russia, led by President Vladimir Putin, amid the Ukraine crisis. His program was broadcast as the first exit polls were being published, showing an overwhelming majority of Crimeans voting to leave Ukraine and join Russia. Americans themselves consider Putin to be a stronger leader than Obama, he had. Why is Obama phoning Putin all the time and talking to him for hours on end?
Maybe there's more to that horse riding picture than we thought.
Maybe there's more to what?
You know, the horse riding picture of Obama holding on to Putin on the back of the horse. No, yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, no other country has the ability to do that to the U.S., at least to the same degree. I mean, I don't think they would be willing to go that far either. You know, this because they know if they start throwing nukes, we're going to, plus everyone else, then, you know, we're back to the mutually assured destruction. But, yeah, it's just, you know, I mean, there's been a lot of propaganda, and let's not forget that today was the closing event of the Special Olympics in Sochi. So the second Olympics have still been going on while all this has been happening. And the message of peace there. However, the Russian government and their press have not been talking peaceful really at all.
Well, this guy who made the comments has apparently been known for making inflammatory statements.
Yes, he's probably given it by word for word by Putin, or at least given a pat on the back for being a good boy.
I would probably go closer to that. But I guess again, the question boils down to what is the solution, and there may not be one.
Yeah, and that's basically what it is. At this point, there isn't one. I mean, the Crimea has fallen to Russia, and it's not going to be back anytime soon, if ever, as part of the Ukraine.
Well, and remember, Crimea was technically an autonomous region of Ukraine. So while it was part of Ukraine, it wasn't part of Ukraine.
And that was mostly due to that it had been part of Russia before the Soviet Union, and during the Soviet Union, it had been moved to become part of Ukraine instead.
The Alaskan in the chat says World War III is the only answer.
And yeah, that's what I can say. The only way it's going to be taken care of is, unfortunately, with war, and no one's willing to do that.
If that's the only answer, you'll find me over there, doing something else.
Yeah. It's just the joys of the situation is that there is no joy in it unless you're Putin, and then you can be very happy because you just fought a mostly bloodless war to gain a very resource-rich area. Yeah, an unfortunate situation for much of Crimea that while the 40+% that boycotted or just didn't bother voting because they knew it was foregone conclusion. I mean, when you've got armed militia in the voting polling stations, nothing like a free election. Yeah.
You won't hear me say anything otherwise. I have no solution. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, no, and I don't have any solution, unfortunately. I mean, I wish there was a solution. I mean, that's kind of been the whole thing since it started, was there is no real solution. It's just at what point can we get Russia to stop? And if they'll stop with Crimea, okay. If they stop with eastern Ukraine, it's a lot harder to deal with. But I mean, and then it goes back to what I was saying, the appeasement. At what point does the world power or the big power decide, okay, I'm going to take off something that you don't want me to take, but you've let me take all this stuff you didn't care about. And that was a lot of World War II right there. And yeah, it's just it's again, no-win situation, unfortunately, and the Ukrainians in Crimea are paying the price. Yeah, Alaskan just said it in the chat room too. Yeah, 1939, like I was saying, it's, oh, I want this part of this country. Okay, that's all I want, because there's people that speak our language there. The ethnic us, they're there, so that's part of us. And that's what Putin's doing. Oh, there's ethnic Russians there, so we'll protect them. At some point he starts taking land that's not ethnic Russian, like Western Ukraine, maybe. But
here's my question. And this is something that I've been curious about. And I've asked this multiple times. As much as we hate the bomb, as much as we hate nuclear weapons, or I hate nuclear weapons, because I think they're an awful device, and I wish they didn't exist. Note my comment. I wish they didn't exist. Would Ukraine having nukes have stopped this from happening?
At this point, no. Because the Crimea happened too quick for Ukraine to react. I mean, and I don't think anyone in their governments felt like they've been at that point where they needed needed to go the suicide route.
Even with the going back and forth, the protests and everything, you don't think Russia would have stayed away a little bit?
No, because I think just that, like I said, the new Ukrainian government wouldn't have been willing to go the suicide route, and so Russia knows, it's not a big enough deterrent. I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong, maybe, but we're not talking India and Pakistan where they regularly go, hey, stop it or we'll test one on your border. It's, I don't know. I don't see the Ukrainian government as having been willing to use one at the point they have been. If Russia full on invades and they had them then it's kind of a what's left to lose. We can't stop them, but yeah. I don't, like I said, at this point, I don't think they would have used them over, but, being completely invaded is another thing.
Well, tell you what, we need to take a break, and we will be right back.
And we should move on to other stuff, get talking about a lot more to cover.
And so, Jonathan, what show is this?
Next.
On what station?
On Vigilant Liberty Radio.
And what will we be doing?
Talking all kinds of stuff.
No, we'll be being right back after this.
Yes, after this.
We'll be right back, folks.
We want to welcome Michael Moore to Occupy Wall Street. I'm so impressed by what I'm seeing here.
How much of people's income do you, Michael Moore, want the government to confiscate?
Probably twice what we're paying right now.
It's not envy, it's war.
Where's the rage? Where's the uprising?
Storm the doors of the New York Stock Exchange.
It is a class war.
If the wealthy paid their fair share. For a documentary filmmaker, I do really well. I'm very blessed.
And the rich thought poverty was bad.
I do well.
They get rid of it.
What pure? There's nothing pure about capitalism.
And they know what's coming on Wall Street.
We're seeing the end of capitalism. And I say good riddance.
He is one of my favorite capitalists. Yeah, I want to give him a hug.
This is Guy Benson from townhall.com and Fox News, and you're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Next, Jonathan Sangster and producer Taylor tonight. We had been talking about the situation in Ukraine, but got a lot more to cover tonight. So we're gonna begin moving on. The big other news that's been going on is the disappearance of Flight 370. And then yesterday, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Najib Razak, declared that the disappearance had been deliberate. Which, at this point...
Shock.
Sorry?
Shock.
Yeah.
Total shock.
But, yeah, at this point, they still really have no idea what happened otherwise, but they believe that someone purposely disabled the plane's transponder and that the plane continued flying on. They're not sure where to, or if it crashed later or landed somewhere, which I saw somewhere today that there's over 600 runways big enough for it to have reached and landed on, which is, most of them would be hard for them to get to unnoticed. However, anything's possible, I guess. I don't know. What are your thoughts on where it could have gone to? Any thoughts?
You're asking the wrong person. I got no freaking clue.
Yeah, that's, I'm like, I've got no clue on it either. I mean, it had... I mean, where would you take a plane that size just to hide it from the world. I mean, we're talking a Boeing 770 here. It's not small. It had 239 people aboard. I mean, if you were just going to crash it, I would think if you're just going to crash a plane and that was your sole mission, then you were in the middle of the ocean or find a coast, or whatever your target. But it's disappeared, no sign of wreckage anywhere or anything, which makes really an oddity where it could have ended up.
Well, what did you think about how the meme kind of, or the motto kind of tended to be, oh, nothing's going on, nothing's going on, nothing's going on, and then, oh yeah, guess what?
Yeah, I've just no. I mean, it did seem like a lot of people, they were too busy going, no, that's impossible, and I don't know. I guess they couldn't come up with any other plausible reasoning, and so like, okay, something must have happened, so we can't hide it forever and just have to admit we don't really know what happened other than someone deliberately drove or flew it in a way where we can't find it. I mean, you've got people going, the Malaysian Triangle route that it fell off the grid, like stuff that goes in the Bermuda Triangle. I've heard that, aliens took it. Which, okay, sweet. I've heard, that it, there's accusations that China took it and hid it in their country. It's all just a matter of, finding it. But since it wasn't on radar, they supposedly got pings off the satellite, but yeah, I mean, it's why if you can ping it from the satellite for a time, how did you lose that at some point later? Is my thought. But
yeah, it is a question that needs to be answered that and no one is going to have the answer for it. I mean, let's not forget that recently they've been discussing about, well, the pilot had. The pilot had a homemade had a homemade flight simulator, which isn't surprising. A lot of pilots have that.
Yeah. That's probably just him being a better pilot than he would be without one. I mean.
Yeah, and then there's the questions about whether. I think the Mirror reported earlier that apparently the pilot told his wife and the pilot's wife and 3 children moved out of the family's home a day before the plane disappeared.
See, that I hadn't heard. That is odd. But I mean, I saw some on Twitter or on Facebook earlier, people going, oh, the pilot had a Muslim name. I'm like, it's Malaysia. A large majority of the country has Muslim Islamic names, so that doesn't mean anything. That kind of pissed me off, actually, because especially the person who did it, I really expected more from.
You can say Kira Davis's name. That's okay.
I was going to play fingers.
You, Kira. We love you, Kira.
But, so I'm guessing you saw it too, and I'm just kind of was like, that's really not fair. I mean, and probably if it was Islamic terrorist group that was involved, they would have been screaming up and down, look what we did, look what we did. I mean, those groups don't regularly keep their things secret after they've carried them out. I mean, that's the point of terrorism, is going, hey, we're the ones you should be scared of. But yeah, no, I don't know. I am just, it's curious, where did it go to? But I mean, you've got most of Southeast Asia, all the way to Indian Ocean. I mean, Northern Australia, it had range to get to. I think the Australians would have noticed that. They're pretty good at, I mean, they still have some, if not the best radars, even above the U.S. and Israel's sometimes. I mean, so they definitely would have seen it if it had come to them. But, I mean, it's just, really going to be a mystery until something gets found. But...
Now, what about the idea that he was a very big fan of Anwar Ibrahim, who is the opposition leader in Malaysia?
I really don't. I don't see really why that would automatically affect it. It's still, okay, be like, some pilot in the U.S. being a fan of top Republican, and the liberal media would try blaming that as to why they did something, but that's very unlikely to have anything to do. I mean, I don't think the opposition party would really want to see a plane disappear just to make the government look bad, but I mean, maybe they're a lot more desperate than I think they are. I do think Jay Bren might have a good point that Waldo and Carmen Sandiego might have been passengers. I did tell you who their daughter is, right?
Whose daughter?
Waldo and Carmen Sandiego's daughter.
Oh, what?
Dora the Explorer.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Makes perfect sense.
I for one, am just asking the question. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, I don't see it having bearing, but I mean, this one I've been so busy involved in the Ukraine situation that a lot, the plane thing I've kept up on basically, but it's just, it's just so unknown. I mean, until we find some evidence or, I mean, there's a lot of government conspiracy. Even the U.S. government's behind the conspiracy of where it's at. Again, but what reasoning? Unless we're talking a Fringe event. If you watch Fringe where, the first season, especially there, where there was these freak biological attacks, and so they made stuff disappear to keep panic away because they didn't know what had happened. But I mean, it's just going to be a mystery for a while. And I really don't see that changing until somewhat, at least at this point, automatically changing to find out what was going on. Alaskan, the island that took the plane and Lost took it. Yeah, I've commented, a couple people, where's the plane? I'm like, watch Lost. I mean, it's just going to be a mystery. And, it's tragic that 239 people are missing with it. I mean, but it's going to be a mystery. And I kind of hope it's not a conspiracy, but at the same time, it's okay where. But I mean, it's such a large part of the world where it could be at that take decades to search every bit of that, really.
Well, it's obvious that it was hijacked. The question is
where to?
Yeah, who, where? I mean, did you see Israel says that it's preparing for an attack by hijacked plane?
Well, they pretty much always are, especially after all the rockets that have gotten fired their way. I mean, that was one of the things I want to talk about tonight. They had on Tuesday and Wednesday, between the two, almost 100 rockets fired out of the Gaza Strip by Israel. Amazingly, no one on the Israeli side was hurt by all these. Israel's Air Force struck back precision targets at Hamas targets, and Hamas even admitted, those were our locations. They're not even trying to hide behind civilians anymore, really. I mean, they said civilians got caught in the explosions, but Israel's doing pinstrike strikes. But I mean, when we talk about terrorism, I mean, Hamas is still just, we've got some rockets. And, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's no big deal. Israel stopped those rockets from getting there that were on that ship last week. But clearly, I mean, Hamas is throwing just everything they can at them randomly. I mean, 5 of the rockets struck in densely populated areas, which has made all of them more miraculous known as hurt. 'Cause, I mean, could have easily had dozens of casualties from each of those. And then you got North Korea firing rockets again. I talked about this last week's show, that they were firing missiles and mortars in the general direction of U.S. and South Korean forces and maneuvers. I mean, nowhere near them, but yeah, today they fired 18 rockets out into the sea where, in quote unquote tests to protest the U.S.'s continued support of South Korea. But,
shocked.
yes. That was something else we talked about last week, was that the tanker that was in the rebel port in Libya, and Libya had threatened to bomb it, and it was flying North Korean flags. Well, the tanker made it out. It got fired upon and hit, but still escaped the Libyan Navy. If your Navy can't catch an oil tanker, don't bother calling it a Navy. I'm pretty sure Colorado has better... I'm pretty sure the Denver Police Department has a better Navy than that. But...
do they even have one?
Not that I know of, but I'm just saying, I mean... yeah, I'm mocking the Libyan Navy. Maybe. But
I'm sure the Spanish did that to the British before that big fight in the 1400s where they lost.
The Armada?
Or 1600s where they lost.
Yeah. But over this, Ali Zidane, the Prime Minister Parliament, was voted out of office after a no-confidence vote because of his administration's inability to stop the ship from getting away. But however, that ship is missing too. No one has seen it since it escaped. So maybe they damaged it more than they thought and it went down, or who knows? But yeah, this North Korean flag flying oil tanker has disappeared in the middle of the Mediterranean at this point, which is a lot harder to do than disappear in the middle of the Pacific or Indian.
Yeah.
I mean,
I look around Cyprus.
Yeah. On a sad note, yesterday marked the 3rd anniversary of the Syrian civil war. And obviously that's not ending anytime soon. You have probably about 250,000 people have been killed over those 3 years, with 2 million displaced. And they have peace talks going, but nothing's been achieved other than they were able to finally get agreements to let refugees out of one of the besieged cities. So non-combatants out, which just makes it easier for the military actually, because they can just pound whatever's left all the more. But yeah, and today they retook a village on the Lebanese border that had been taken over by the rebels for a long time. And there's accusations flying between the different rebel groups that some of the groups had made an agreement with the regime's forces and abandoned the town and their allied forces, but we'll have to see if anything comes of that. And then in Turkey, we had another round of protests there against the government, with several people being killed, tear gas, water cans, rubber bullets against tens of thousands in the streets. One of the main issues people have is, well, the prime minister's corruption, but also that the police use excessive force. This round of protests was actually set off with a 15-year-old who'd been injured in July when he was struck in the head by a tear gas canister. He died after being in a coma since then, and his death set off this round of protests against the government. And then you had Nigeria on Friday. Hundreds of Boko Haram, the Al-Qaeda linked affiliate there. They're not part of Al-Qaeda. They're kind of an ally more. But they attacked the city of Maiduguri in northeast Nigeria. They targeted the barracks, the prison, the university, and the housing area for the city's government workers. The military was able to force them back eventually, but not until after they'd killed dozens of the citizens of the city and released people from the prisons, mostly members of Boko Haram who had been previously arrested. However, the government says they were able to kill over 100 of the terrorist group's fighters during the attack and the repulsion of it. One big couple things I really want to touch in was we had a series of recalls go out this week, which could affect people. Well, they affect a lot of people, but they could affect our listeners. We have the GM recalled 1.6 million vehicles.
This is why I don't have a GM.
Well, a faulty ignition switch could turn off the ignition even while the vehicle is driving. So you could be going along the freeway and your car turns off. Bad. And also the same issue disables airbags. The recall covers the 2005 through 07 Chevy Cobalts, the 06 through 07 Chevy HHRs, the 2000 model the Pontiac G5, 2006 through 07 Pontiac Solstice, 03 through 07 Saturn Ion, and the 2007 Saturn Sky. Over the next couple months, they're going to be sending out letters telling people, hey, yours is under this, and they're going to be inspecting and replacing faulty switches for free. However, yes, definitely a big problem. There has been actually a couple deaths linked to that one. And then there's investigations that there may be even a couple hundred people have been killed by that. Which, if that's the case, that's really going to hurt GM. If lawsuits over a couple hundred deaths. But at this point, only two or three that had been actually proven to be because of that issue.
I do like the comment by Jay Brain in the chat. The ignition going off while driving is part of the Obama energy saving plan. Just glide.
Right. Is that what you do in your Leaf? Was that the Leaf, the electric one? Yeah.
Sure. You just gotta go into neutral. Just go into neutral. And turn left and get back as fast as you can.
Yeah. GM's not the only one having problems. Honda recalled 900,000 of the Odyssey minivans. In that case, a fuel pump could crack and leak fuel, which could be rather bad because obvious fire hazard. Mm-hmm. Models from the 2005 through 2010 are included in the recall. And all of the vans included in that were built at the Lincoln, Alabama plant between June 23rd of 2004 and September 4th, 2010. In that case, again, Honda is going to be contacting customers in April, inspect, and then replace if needed for free. But yeah, 900,000 from one specific plant. That's how many plants do they close a year?
You're asking the wrong person.
That's gonna be bad. I can't see that being good for that town in Alabama. That kind of name going around it. That 900, almost a million vans that they built were faulty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the third recall I have. This one actually affects Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick, the provinces in Canada. Dole's Italian blend salad. There's a risk of listeria contamination. No one's even been reported illness because of it. However, they're making sure because you can die from that.
Yes. We saw that actually up there where you are, where there was that one farm that
got shut down. Yeah. And they're
over at Cantaloupes, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was cantaloupes. Yeah, listeria in the cantaloupes. I wrote about that. I just can't remember who it was now, but the 10-ounce salad bags, again, sold in Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick, with a best before date of 14 MR12. Otherwise, they're not too worried about it. If they did say that if it has that same best before date and it was in the neighboring provinces, then it's kind of a, if you would like, recall, not a suggested one.
Yeah, and I see that Winnipeg is all angry about it. You know why I know Winnipeg is all angry about it?
Why?
They killed the Stars tonight.
Oh.
7-2.
Do you realize Winnipeg's like on the other side of Canada?
I had to get a hockey reference in somehow.
Yeah. Speaking of sports, saw today in the Premier League, Liverpool took down Manchester United 3-0.
Yeah, but you saw how two of their goals were though, right?
Yeah, it was not a good game for Manchester. The calling wasn't exactly in their favor either. That one penalty kick that I saw Liverpool missed badly, but that one shouldn't have even happened. That was a horrible call by the refs. But yeah, definitely a bad day for the United fans.
You should find this amusing. So, here in Dallas, they have a very big St. Patrick's Day parade. The Saturday before St. Patrick's Day. Now, yesterday was also the Ireland. It was the Ireland-France match in rugby.
Okay.
So, I'm headed to I'm headed to the local pub to watch it, to watch this match. I'm like, oh, this ought to, this ought to be great. I'll enjoy watching it. It should be fun because it's Ireland. It's Ireland, France, right? And this is an actual Irish pub.
It's a good place to do it.
Well, they moved it over from Ireland. So I go there, and as I'm driving up, as I am driving up the road there, I'm like, I see all these people wearing green. I'm like, why are these people wearing green? What's going? Of course, the Dallas St. Patrick's Day parade. And so when I got to the pub, of course it was crowded.
I can imagine so.
So I ended up only seeing a little bit of the. I ended up only seeing a little bit of the match before I said enough and left.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people wearing green the last couple of days, and I'm just kind of laughing because I'm like, yeah. Some of the shirts that people wear, especially girls wear. Like I saw one, she's wearing a shirt that says "Rub my shamrock, I'm Irish," and we always go on. That and other ones. It made me think though. So many of the shirts that I see girls wear for that, if people actually did what the shirt said, police would be quickly involved.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, and it just made me kind of go, why would you wear that if, I don't know. Why wear stuff that you don't actually want to happen or believe in, but I digress. I just was like, that's stupid shirt. Of course, as I'm part Irish, I rarely actually wear green on St. Patrick's Day. Just gonna bring it. I'm more proud of my Scottish side anyways.
The best St. Patrick's Day story I have was when I went to I went to a bar when I was living in Denton, Texas, and I happened to walk in there wearing my Boston Bruins jersey. Because I was like, it's St. Patrick's Day. I'm not going to wear green. I'll wear my Bruins jersey. And because what people don't realize is I'm Texan, but I was born in Boston. Trust me, I got here as fast as I could. And year and a half. And I had someone say to me, "Oh, you're from Boston? I'll buy you a car bomb." I was like, all right, it works for me. So I got a free drink out of it.
That's good. Of course, I had that, 2 weeks ago after my birthday that I commented on Facebook and Twitter. I turned down a free shot because I just really did not want what was in it. And
what was in it?
Jameson. I'm not a whiskey fan. It was just straight Jameson. I was going, I have noted, and did not want to drink it, so I didn't. I actually turned it down, and Alan was making fun. He was like, "I'm pretty sure that adds 10 years to your age." I'm like, okay, fair enough. But
what, drinking Jameson?
no, turning down free shots.
Oh.
Yeah. Older than I am, apparently.
Don't look at me.
I don't know. I've hit that point where if I'm going to drink it, I want to enjoy it, not just, oh, it's alcohol.
That is true. And the fact that I'm now having my computer throw a fit again, you know what that means?
Means your computer's about to quit for the night.
Yeah. And now that it's completely frozen. Yep. I was afraid of that. Okay, we need to end this now.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. You can find me on Twitter Radical. It's TORARADICL on Twitter, Facebook, SolyaG+.com, everywhere.
Good night, folks.
We'll see you next week.
Or something.
This show is copyright by VLR Media. All opinions of panelists and guests are their own and may not reflect the opinion of VLR Media, the host, or anyone else.